אז ערב טוב, שלום לכולם, ברוכים הבאים, כאן ערן שטרן, ואני שמח מאוד לפתוח את הרעיון הזה, נמצא איתי כבר ג'ון אסארף. היי ג'ון.
שלום, מה נשמע?
היי. אז לכל מי שנמצא איתנו כאן, אז שוב ברוכים הבאים, אני שמח לפגוש אתכם כאן, ואני מאוד שמח על ההזדמנות גם לראיין את ג'ון. למעשה זו הפעם השנייה שאני מראיין את ג'ון, אני ראיינתי אותו פעם ראשונה לפני מספר שנים, וזה היה אחד הרעיונות היותר טובים שיצא לי לערוך, ואני בטוח שהיום יהיה אפילו יותר טוב. למי שלא מכיר, ג'ון הוא אחד האנשים המובילים בעולם בתחום של ההתנהגות והחשיבה. יש לו יכולת ייחודית לסייע לאנשים, לשחרר את המכשולים הנפשיים והרגשיים שיש להם, כדי שהם יוכלו להשיג את המיטב מתוכם. ב10 השנים האחרונות הוא פרסם 2 ספרים שיצאו אגב גם בעברית, שניהם הפכו לרבי מכר, זה התשובה ולהשיג את הכל, ומי שזוכר אותו כמובן מההופעה שלו בסרט הסוד. הוא הקים כמה חברות מאוד מאוד מצליחות שהונפקו ונמכרו במיליארדי דולרים, וזה תמיד תענוג גדול לראיין אותו. מזכיר לכם שיש לכם אפשרות לשלוח לנו שאלות תוך כדי הרעיון, ואנחנו נתייחס לשאלות האלה ואשמח גם לענות, וכמובן גם לעבוד ג'ון. אז אנחנו עוברים לאנגלית. So, hi again, John. So I'm very glad for this opportunity and to have you here again, and for our audience as well. So I just want to dive in and to maybe you introduce yourself for a second, and then we'll go to some interesting questions.
Sure. Well, I've had the pleasure of I guess writing a couple of New York Times best-selling books and building a few companies. I was born in Tel Aviv, Israel, and left when I was 5 years old. So I moved to Montreal, Canada, and then I now live in San Diego, where we do a lot of brain research, specifically on understanding behavior and perception and what causes people to gather information, people to set their goals, and some people achieve them, other people don't. What's the nature of habits, and how do we create new habits and release the ones that are destructive or not helping us achieve our goals? And so those are the things that we do here. We do brain scan imaging studies and neuroimaging studies using neurofeedback and brain mapping to see exactly as much as we can see with the technology that's available today into the psyche of the human mind. And for me, it's just been a passion and a labor of love.
So, I've been following your work for a couple of years now, and it's quite amazing to see, all the studies, all the brain studies you mentioned, and how you managed to take all this research and to apply it to what they call science of success and what makes people successful. So maybe you can share with us maybe some of the new discoveries about the brain that are critical for people's success.
I think one of the biggest ones to start with is what people have heard about is that the brain is moldable and pliable. It's called neuroplasticity. And we used to think just 15 years ago that the brain was hardwired, that we were born and we were going to be like our mothers or fathers or sisters or aunts and uncles and brothers, etc. And the truth is that the brain is creating new connections every second of every day. And what that really means for you and for me is that even if we have a genetic predisposition to think a certain way or behave a certain way, or a genetic predisposition for a disease, epigenetics, or our environment, whether it's our external environment or our thinking and our emotions, actually will change the genetic code of our brain and our DNA. And so it makes no difference what your past is, it makes no difference what your parents or grandparents' past is, it makes no difference what your current circumstances are. If you decide that you want to achieve a different result, whether it's in health, your wealth, your relationships, your career, finances, and anything that you want, we know that as soon as you start to think about it, you are changing the anatomy, the actual physical structure of your brain, and you're developing a neural pattern around that thought or behavior. And that is really a pretty amazing thing to think about, because we really don't have anywhere else to hide. and say that, well, I'm just like my mother, I'm just like my father, but look at the environment, the economy is this, or my school is this, or I'm white, I'm black, I'm Jewish, I'm Catholic. Those excuses are gone.
So from one end, it's like very good news. From the other end, for many people, it's like maybe bad news because they can no longer blame everyone else for the results, right?
That's exactly right. It's the era of responsibility, right? Is to take responsibility, and the good news is the people that are listening to this and watching this, they already want to do and learn what they can in order to achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve. And that's the great news, is we know how to accelerate that faster and easier today than ever before. And we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah. So you're also famous for your appearance in The Secret, one of the, I think, I don't think anyone in the world who doesn't know what The Secret is about. And it was a huge thing, a couple of years ago. And maybe for people who... yeah. And for people who, maybe watch The Secret or read the book, I know that the research that you've done is actually bringing the science behind what The Secret was about. So maybe you can, give us some examples of how people, based on the research on how the brain works, can really apply what The Secret was talking about. Because many people which I met understood the principle, but didn't know how to apply it.
Yeah, the Secret did a great job at introducing to the world the power of thought using Hollywood, movie theatrics. The biggest problem in The Secret was it gave people false hope. And when The Secret said, think, believe, and achieve, that's really not true, because there's a lot of people who think positively, they believe they can achieve more success, and they're not achieving more success. And the question is why? And the answer is because what we're learning about the brain is, if you think about the spiritual side of your being, the essence of what gives everything in the universe life, that's within us. But then we also have emotions. And depending on the emotions that we're feeling, the emotions can actually cause thinking, and thinking can cause emotions. And so what we want to help people understand is thinking happens, autonomically and automatically. And most people are saying thoughts happen automatically. Thinking is a little bit different, and thinking actually requires a little bit of effort. And what people don't realize or didn't realize in The Secret is, if you are thinking about achieving success, but you are feeling like you're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough, not skilled enough, then you are creating an opposing vibration within your own body. And so unless you have coherence, and this is really the area that we study, is how do you get the coherence in the brain? And a visual that I'd like everybody to think about is, imagine if you're in an orchestra or a band. And imagine if the orchestra leader says, here's the song we're going to play, and a few of the people in the band are playing totally out of tune, or they're playing, something totally different. Well, there isn't coherence. And when there isn't coherence in the brain and in the body, then there's chaos. And a chaotic vibration is going to attract to it the vibration of the exact same order. And so when we are looking at vibration and energy, what we want to understand is we have to get the spiritual side with the emotional side with the mental side. But then, because we live on this little blue planet called Earth, we have to take action. But not any kind of action. We have to take the right action in the right order at the right time. So there's a spiritual, unseen part of achieving goals. There is a mental and emotional side of it that has to be aligned, and then the behaviors have to match up. And when you have that coherence, now you're in alignment. And one more visual to think about is when you are turning your radio on, you put it to the exact station that you want, you know, whatever that number is, 100.5 or 92.5. It's not 92.51234. It's a precise station, and when you tune right into the station, then you are using your mental power, your emotional power, and if you do the right things, that's how you achieve goals.
So you said a very important thing here, that we actually need to have an alignment between what we think or say and what we actually, like, you know, subconscious mind really think about ourselves. So, yes. You know, if I'm thinking I'm great and successful, but, you know, my self-belief is that I'm not, there's like this gap, right?
It cancels itself out. That's what you're thinking positively, but you feel negatively, and you wonder why things aren't happening.
Right. And I heard some years ago, I'm not sure who actually said it, that in the battle between your conscious mind and subconscious mind, your subconscious mind will always win.
Absolutely. I was just reading an article today in the newspaper here, where there was this woman, a young woman in her early 30s, who won $10 million 3 years ago. And she gave half away to charity, so that's wonderful. She had about $5.2 million left. And 3 years later, she doesn't have one penny. And the reason is because her outside world with all the money didn't match up with her own internal self-image, and so she pissed it away. And one of the things when we talked about the brains, our brain before, is our brain obviously keeps you alive, makes your heart beat, keeps your lungs breathing in air and exhaling air. But it also makes 100% certain that your outside environment of results match your internal map of reality. So what you truly believe at an unconscious, implicit level of the brain is what you will actually see and do and create in your life. And so that's why all the work that we do is really around understanding the unconscious processes and how to manipulate those so that we can have the conscious behaviors and thoughts and emotions needed to achieve goals and dreams.
So I guess the good news is that it is reversible, so people can actually change that, right? Maybe you can say something about that, how this process works.
Well, if you think about what does your unconscious mind constitute, you know, so there's obviously there's three parts of the brain that we study. One is the reptilian brain, which is the old part of our brain that's about 400 to 500 million years in development and evolution. And it's the instinctual part of your brain. It's the part of your brain that's looking out for your survival. It's looking out for food. It's looking out for anything that's dangerous. And then there's the emotional brain, which is about 40 to 50,000 years old. And that's the part that has been developing most recently. And then on top of that was our prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, the logical brain. And that's divided into the right and left prefrontal cortex. And one is responsible to be basically, we call it the Einstein or Frankenstein part of your brain. And the Einstein part of your brain is the part of you that can set a goal, set a vision, lead you towards all the solutions that you need to have in order to achieve your goals and dreams. The right side of your brain is there to be the pessimist, to go into your old memory banks, to remind you of all the times that you failed, all the times that you tried. It reminds you of the disappointments that you've had in your own life or that people have told you that you've disappointed. So there's this opposing side in our brains that we have to learn how to master, because it's our brain, and the brain is an organ, and we're not the brain. Just like we're not our hearts, we're not our fingers, we're not any organ. We have a brain, and the key is, how do I get to utilize my brain better? And so if there is this spiritual side to our being, this higher intelligence within us, then is it possible for us to instruct our brain to release beliefs that are no longer valid or true? Is it possible to release destructive habits and patterns that just don't do well for us? Is it possible to release traumas of the past? Is it possible to release disappointments of the past? And all the research says, yes, we can re-script our own brains. And there's 7, 8, 9 different methodologies that you can utilize to prime your brain with a new thought, a new belief, a new habit. And if you do it over time, just like you took time to learn how to walk, you took time to learn how to walk, to eat, you took time to learn how to, put a rifle together with your eyes open and eyes closed. It took time to learn these new beliefs and skills. And when we apply the same principles that we applied when we were children learning as adults with a lot more knowledge and experience, and unfortunately traumas and challenges, we can re-script our own brains. And as we re-script our own brains, that's the equivalent of being a computer programmer who sits on his or her keyboard and writing a new code for their own brain, and we upgrade our own software.
Okay, so that's I think this is really hopeful for people who are listening. So it's not there's a hope after all, and we can actually make this change.
It used to be things of science fiction, but now I don't know if anybody that's watching and participating ever saw the movie The Matrix. But do you remember in the movie The Matrix, there's a scene where Neo sits in the chair and they put this thing into the back of his head, and all of a sudden he moves a little bit and he goes, wow, I know, I can't remember if it's Kung Fu or Jiu-Jitsu. And basically they programmed his brain through a machine. Well, that may have been a science fiction movie, but I can tell you just several weeks ago, they took laboratory rats. And they had taught this one rat a behavior that they reinforced over and over and over and over and over again. They took another rat and they connected the one rat who had been trained for this one behavior, and they took an electrode and they connected it to the one rat that was trained, and they transferred the behavior to the other rat's brain, and the rat performed the behavior it had never ever been trained to do. Maybe. So we're at the age now, right now, not in the future, right now, of being able to create new patterns in brains. Right now they're using wires, but guess what? 20, 30 years ago we had wires for telephones, right. And now we have cell phones. So the era that we're entering into is a neurological age that is so powerful and so phenomenal that we're going to start seeing, I believe, a whole evolution of the human species where we can really let go of the things that aren't serving us, and we can start to think a lot more powerfully, feel a lot more fully, and behave in ways that allow each one of us to achieve a lot more success than we're achieving right now. And I'm not just talking about financial success. I'm talking about being happier, being healthier, being more full of purpose and life. And I really believe that's the era that we're in right now.
Yeah. So I know, John, you have an interesting life story. You started as a young guy, and before you were 30, you became a multi-millionaire. So maybe you can share some of the things that you believe helped you to achieve such a huge success so early.
I think before I became financially successful, I got myself into a lot of trouble. And when I moved from Israel to Montreal, I didn't speak French or English, and I was 5 years old. And when I went to the class, I just didn't feel like I was very smart. I didn't feel like I belonged in the class. The kids made fun of me. The teachers didn't have time to work with me because there were over 50 kids in every class in the public school that I went to. So I was 2 years behind before I started to gain the language of English and French, which I had to learn living in Montreal. But that really affected my belief in myself. I didn't think I was smart enough. I didn't think I was worthy enough. I didn't think I was deserving enough. And my parents didn't know what to do because it was the school system. They were learning, how to speak English also, and they knew how to speak French, so they helped me a little bit there. But from the age of about 7, 8 years old to 17 years old, I got into a lot of trouble in school. I got into a lot of trouble with the law. And then when I was 18, my brother introduced me to one man who changed my life. And he changed my life by asking me one question that just changed the way I looked at everything, but it also changed the commitment level of what I wanted to achieve. And he asked me one question. This was the question. He says, are you interested in becoming very successful, or are you committed? And I asked him, I said, Alan, his name was Alan Brown. I said to him, what do you mean? Am I interested or am I committed? He says, well, if you're interested, you will do what is convenient. If you're interested, you'll give me excuses of why you're too young, why you're not smart enough, why you're not good enough, why you only went to grade 11 high school. You'll give me all the excuses, and you won't do what it takes. He says, but if you're committed, you won't have any excuses. You won't give me excuses. And he says, and you'll do whatever it takes to upgrade your knowledge, upgrade your skills, and become the type of person you need to become to achieve the goals you're capable of achieving. And at the time, I was like 18, 19 years old, and Alan was in his 50s, and he was a very wealthy real estate developer. He was happily married, had children, was a philanthropist, gave money to the community and to the synagogue, to the churches. And so he was somebody that I wanted to learn from. And as soon as I shook his hand, I said, I want to learn from you. I'm committed. He then sat me down and he had me write my goals. For 25 years later, so I was 19 at the time, I wrote goals out for when I was going to be 44 about health, about wealth, relationships, career, business, charity, fun, experiences. And when I wrote these goals down, I remember right now, like it was yesterday, I wrote things down that I had no idea how to achieve. I didn't have the skills, I didn't have the knowledge, I didn't have the strategies, I didn't have the contacts, I didn't have anything. But he made me write it down on a piece of paper, and every day he would have me sit down and look at that piece of paper and take my finger and put it across every word. So I was sending it. I didn't know this then, but today I know this. As I was reading it and I was touching it, I was sending a signal to my brain. I was priming my brain to look at and feel something that wasn't real, just like a Hollywood actor or actress practices for a role that they may just see on a piece of paper so they could win an Academy Award or an Oscar. I rehearsed that in my mind every single day. And at first I didn't believe it. I would read it and I'd go, that's bullshit. That's not true. I'm not making $100,000 a year. I'm not driving this car. I'm not living in this house. I'm not traveling. And I would hear these little voices in my head. But he told me, he says, the little voices in your head are the old you fighting to keep you in your comfort zone. What I want you to do is create a new image of you, and that's what was on that piece of paper. And so I started to believe what I was reading. And in the first year, when I was 19, I ended up buying my own car. I ended up making about $35,000, which was more than my father made as a taxi driver. But then as I kept doing this, kept visualizing, kept emotionalizing, kept reading it, kept upgrading my skills to be a better salesperson and to be a better business person, which is what he was teaching me to be, I made $151,000. And then I bought my first house. And so little by little, he taught me how to reinvent my own mind first. And while I was reinventing who I was in here, he was also teaching me the skills that I needed to match up with my goals and dreams. So he taught me that you can have a goal, but then what do you need to do today to achieve that goal? What do you need to do tomorrow? So he taught me both pieces, the mindset, the inner working and the outside. So by combining the two, little by little, I was able to achieve a little bit more success. And I haven't stopped in 34 years.
So that's quite an amazing story. couple of things that I want to put some light on things that you said. One, you actually had a mentor.
Yes.
Which
Critical.
which I think is like I say that this is the only shortcut to success that I know about. Is getting the help from someone who is doing what you want to do or achieving what you want to achieve. And the other thing that I want to point out here is that you were very diligent, as I hear what you're saying, about doing the mind processes, like reading it, and you said taking line by line, and so on. And this is I believe a critical aspect, because people. I see often people who try, they put a vision board, or they, write their vision, or they do affirmation, but they don't stick it on a day after day after day after day. And maybe you can talk about that, because I know it's critical.
Yeah, when I'm going to go back to how the brain operates so that people can understand why it's so imperative. And when we have a thought, or we look at an image once or twice, then we develop a very, very simple pattern in the brain. But because we're having 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day, and because we have billions of bits of information coming into our consciousness a day, your brain tries to figure out patterns of what to keep and what to pay attention to and what to release and distort and not even pay attention to. So when you are committed to a vision, when you're committed to a change, when you're committed to an outcome, then the first week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, your brain's going, oh my God, why are you making me work this hard? It's conscious effort, and your brain doesn't want to conserve energy in something that it knows you're probably going to give up. So if you have tried setting goals, having a vision board, altering your beliefs or behaviors by visualizing for a day or two, your brain goes into its memory banks, and your prefrontal cortex specifically goes into the memory bank and says, you know what, you've tried this 10, 20, 30 times before. I'll let you do this for a day or two, and then I'm going to get you to focus back on what you want. Well, you have to override the old memory banks and repave new neural patterns. And so all of the new research on change and behavioral change and neurological change for lasting change suggests we need 3 things. Number 1, we need to have a big motivator as to why we're going to do it this time versus any other time. Because if you said, well, let me try it out, let me see if this will work, your brain goes, well, you know what, I'm going to give you this much effort. But if you say, I'm absolutely committed, I'm burning the bridge, and I am going to do this no matter what, and here's why, and you have the reasons why you want to achieve this more than anything else before, that's step number 1. Number 2, you have to create the environment, the internal environment of thought, the internal environment of emotions and mental fortitude, but you also need to create the environment around you in order to support the decision that you've made. Number 3, you have to have a daily small habit process. So you're better off doing a little bit every day versus doing a lot for a week or two. And one of the things that I teach is this: the habit is more important than the intensity at first. The habit is more important than the intensity at first. And what do most people do? They make a decision, and then they go after it like crazy for a day or a week or 2 weeks, and then they just they diminish all of their efforts. And the polar opposite's what's actually needed, is commit to doing something for 3 minutes a day, but do it every day for the next 90 days. Commit to 10 minutes a day or 20 minutes a day every day for 90 days. Why? Because every day that you do it, you reinforce a neurological pattern. As you reinforce the neurological pattern from conscious, hardworking effort, your brain finally says, you know what, I guess this person is serious. I might as well just make this an automatic function that you don't have to think about anymore. And that's where the win comes. And so I learned that many, many, many years ago, is to develop the habit first, then increase the intensity, versus make it intense first, which you're going to probably want to quit because there's too much conscious effort. And we only have a certain number of attention units in our brain that we get to use every day. And when we're focusing on change, it takes up a lot of our brain power. When we're focusing on solving problems, when we're focusing our attention on all of the challenges we're having, we're using a lot of attention units in the brain. And when we use up our attention units, we don't feel like doing it anymore. And the first thing that we let go of is the new goals, the new beliefs, the new habits, and the new dreams that we have. And we revert to using all of our energy and attention on what is from our past that needs attention.
So, so far, if I can summarize it, what you said so far, we have one is a repetitive process, the daily repetitive process, which is very important, and the second one is what you said earlier, that is that we must align our internal beliefs to the external results that we want to achieve. And here's I think a part where many people has fears, doubts, fear of success, fear of failure, and also which hold them back. And I know you have some research on that as well, how that is really holding people back, the fear of success and failure.
Yeah, there's over 50 different types of fears. So fear of disappointment, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of being embarrassed, fear of being ashamed, fear of rejection, and I can name 45 more. Now, when we think about the brain, we're looking at circuits in the brain. So there's a motivational circuit in the brain. There's a circuit that actually lights up in the brain when we're motivated. There's a spiritual circuit in the brain when we feel like we're connected to a source that's bigger than ourselves. But there's also a fear circuit in the brain. And by default, all incoming information from the outside world is processed through the thalamus in the brain, which activates the reptilian part of the brain, the brain that I talked about earlier, that's there to keep you safe. And any time that there is real danger in the physical world, or imagined danger from your memory banks, and the memory banks include everything you've watched on television. It includes every experience you've had. It includes every experience you've been around. Your brain has that in its memory bank. And if there was any pain, if there was any shame, embarrassment, whether it was physical pain, emotional pain, it doesn't make a difference. The first thing that's brought up to your consciousness is the risk of danger. It's the emotion that is first brought to your attention as a protective mechanism. So the first thing for people to understand is you're not your emotions. 99.99% of your fears are based in your past memory banks from television and radio and experiences that you've had or seen, and not based on reality. And so there is a gap between the fear and the emotion and people reacting or responding. The trained mind recognizes that the emotion of fear is there. Most emotions, whether it's sadness, fear, happiness, disgust, are lasting about 90 to 120 seconds if you just observe it. So you feel the fear and you observe the fear. The only thing that the emotion of fear lets us know, obviously, is that there's real or imagined danger present, but that an electrical and chemical has been released, electrical signal and chemical has been released in our bloodstream that's causing the feeling. Now, could you teach somebody to feel the emotion of fear, let it ride like a wave, and choose to respond instead of react? And the answer is yes, you can. The challenge is we're taught that by our parents, by our teachers, by most of society, in school, you know, anywhere. And what we are recognizing is we don't even know that consciousness exists up to, or reality exists, in most cases up to half a second after we've already gotten the stimuli in our brain. And so we're actually living most of our lives in the past, but we can learn how to observe and feel the feeling and then make a choice as to whether you want to move forward or not. And that's just something that you learn how to do, and you change your level of awareness from being a reptilian, reactive, instinctual behavioral reaction to one that goes more into using the smartest part of our brain, which is our left prefrontal cortex, which is the CEO, the executive director of our brains and our lives, and we can learn how to use that better.
So it's interesting. So you basically say that our emotional mechanism reacts the same to an actual fear, like something is really happening, and to like a false fear, which is something imaginary or something from our past or something we watch from TV. But the chemical reaction is completely the same. We feel it the same, and most people actually act the same, which is when they face fear, they stop or go back.
That's right, and it's a skill that you can learn, just like tennis, just like surfing, just like anything else. It's a skill that you can learn, and it's not a skill that is taught in schools. But the skill is the ability to observe the reaction or the emotion of the brain or the body, and then to choose what to do. And your brain doesn't know the difference between, me looking at you right now, you being in front of me closing my eyes and seeing a picture of you, or me seeing a picture of you that's on a photo. Your brain, unconscious brain, doesn't know the difference, and so it will respond to a potential or real threat the exact same way, a real or imagined threat the exact same way. So when you're thinking about doing something you've never done before that might cause you, embarrassment, shame, disappointment, failure, guess what? You're going to move back and retreat versus move forward and take action.
So maybe you can share with us maybe a tip or two about how you can actually do that. So, if I'm now facing a fear and logically I understand it's like a false fear, it's not real, it's not something happening, how can I actually react to it and become from the reactive place rather than the automatic place?
So if you take any fear that you might have and you just write down on a piece of paper what the fear is, and you ask yourself, is this fear real or is it imagined? What is the evidence that I have that this fear is real? And let's say you have evidence from your past. You've tried something before and it hasn't worked out before. And so the first step is to recognize the fear. The second step, once you recognize whether the fear is real or imagined, that you're projecting into the future a potential negative consequence, then you can go to step number 2, and that is called reframing the fear. And so if you have a fear of failing, how can you reframe what that means so that it doesn't have the emotional strength to stop you from taking action? Because whenever you're going to be in action, there's a chance that you're going to fail, you're going to fall, you're going to make mistakes. But depending on how you frame that in your own mind will determine whether you're going to move forward or not. So for example, for me, when I have fears, which I do, I always ask myself, are they real or imagined? If they're imagined, then do I still want to move forward because I'm worried about a potential consequence in the future that may happen? And the answer in many cases, yeah, that's what I'm worried about. And then I ask myself, am I still prepared to take action even though I may fail? So as opposed to letting the automatic response stop me from taking action, I make a conscious decision to do what I need to do anyway. If it's something from a memory bank in the past, I look to reframe that experience from the past by either adding words to it, adding a different meaning to it, and reframing the emotional impact that it's having on my life. The third part is what we call the release technique, and most of the research is showing that any emotion, whether it's fear or sadness or happiness, will last for 90 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes on its own. And if there's an emotion of fear, doing 10 simple breaths with your eyes open or eyes closed, where you just focus on one thing on the wall or one thing on your desk, if you just take deep breaths in and deep breaths out in a rhythmic fashion, you will actually be able to release the fear, almost like letting a wave move back out to shore. So it's recognize, reframe, release, and then the fourth part is you retrain your brain. So now you take the thing that you want to do and achieve that may be causing you fear, and now you retrain your brain by doing 2 little steps. Number 1 is seeing yourself overcome the obstacle that may be in your way, and then you see yourself at the outcome winning because you've taken action. So if you feel the fear, you reframe it, you release it, but then you retrain your brain to seeing yourself overcome the obstacle that may be in your way, whether it's, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough skill, I don't have enough knowledge. See that as the obstacle. See yourself overcoming the obstacle and see yourself achieving the goal. Now you're retraining your brain to a higher level of thinking, and that is really some of the latest research on how to overcome fears and how to really achieve the goal that you want to achieve.
Oh, this is really fascinating. I know.
No, it's really good. Fascinating.
Okay. Another thing I wanted to ask John is that if you look at the overall population of people, you kind of, if you would rate the people based on their success, in every aspect of life, you would find that the high achievers are only a small fraction of the population. I know statistically they talk about 2 or 3%. Some say 4, but it's not much more than that. Why is that? Why is that?
I think number 1, it's really people don't understand themselves, and they're really not aware of the power within them, and they really don't understand the power of change. And people have goals and dreams. I mean, everybody I speak to around the world, they have goals and dreams. They want to achieve this or achieve that, go here, go there, spend more time with their family, have more time for their hobbies. And what they don't understand is there are different mechanisms of how to win the game. And let me give you an example. Over here in my office, I have a Rubik's Cube. And this is an 8x8 Rubik's Cube. And in order to solve the Rubik's Cube, which I don't know how to solve this one, but the 3x3 Rubik's Cube has 43 quintillion possible moves. Not the 8x8. I don't even know the word to describe how many moves you could do that. But the 3x3 is so complex that it has 43 quintillion possible moves. And the world record to solve it is 7 seconds. So how is it possible to have 43 quintillion moves, but the world record 7 seconds? Well, success is all about recognizing patterns and following patterns. And most people don't take the time to recognize their own patterns. They also don't take the time to upgrade their knowledge and their skills, where they take knowledge and they actually apply it until they reach a level of mastery. And so many people are playing the game of life at the kindergarten level or high school level or university level, and that requires a certain level of knowledge and skill and application. And what I suggest is, if you want to achieve any level of success, and I don't care if it's your health, wealth, relationships, career, business, whatever area you want, for every level, there's a way of thinking that's different than the other level. For every level, there's a skill that's required to play at that level. And for every level, there are different strategies. What to do is more complex than the level below. So if you want to achieve a next level of success, whatever that is for you, you have to remember that if you already had the knowledge and the skills, you'd be doing it. So something is missing in your equation between your knowledge and your skills and what you're doing. And so if you focus your attention on fixing that gap, everything starts to change. And when you align the spiritual side of yourself that wants to achieve more, because spirit is always for fuller expression and expansion, if you line up your emotional strength where you really learn how to master your own emotions, if you're able to keep your mind focused like a laser on what it is that you want to achieve, and then you learn the things that you need to actually do, okay, in the physical world. Everybody who's watching this right now, everyone, you know how to make more money right now. You know how to be healthier right now. You know how to have a better relationship right now. You know how to get closer to God right now. The question is, why aren't you doing it? And the answer is because you've been conditioned to think and feel and behave a certain way, and you're staying in your comfort zone because it's comfortable. And what you have to be willing to do is do something that we call the switch cost. You have to be willing to pay the cost to switch from what is to what you want. And that's where the daily habits come in. That's where the big why comes in. That's where your environment comes in to support you. And that's where the daily new habits come in. And that's called the switch cost.
Fascinating. I want to ask John, because I know it's, I'm looking at the questions that people ask, and I know it's something that comes up. And it might be a bit personal, so feel free, to answer to the level that you'd like. But you said that there are some daily routines and daily habits. So maybe you can share some of your personal daily rituals that you do.
Sure. When I wake up, the first thing I start off with is my gratitude mental rehearsal, and I ask myself, what am I most grateful for today? And as soon as I do that, when my eyes open, I focus on all of the things: my health, wealth, relationships, my family, the experience I get to have in the world, the charitable contributions I can make, and the difference I can make in the world. And so I focus on those things. Then I usually go downstairs and I will work out, or I'll do some work for about an hour. And then I go and I train with my trainer in my gym at home. And I do about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes of training every day. And then I will do a meditation after I do my exercise, and then I will review my goals. So I will take a look right in my gym at home are my goals. So I have them available to me in that sequence, in that routine, my daily routine. And after I do my meditation and my visualization and see my goals of my life in the next 5 years, 20 years, 50 years, then I go into the house and I have a very, very healthy smoothie with, I'm a vegan, so I don't eat any animal protein, but I have an extremely healthy smoothie. And then I get to my office somewhere around 9:30 every day, and I work most of the day with my team. I've got a team here, about 25 people in my company here, and that's the daily routine. And then in the evening, I ask myself some questions. Oh, well, there's one more routine. Hold on one second. Show it to you. Actually, my assistant took them away, but I have what I call is my daily results planner. And when I get into my office, the first thing that I do with my assistant is I make sure that my day is planned around the highest impact producing activities. So I have 3 high impact producing activities every day that I want to finish by the end of the day. I also, from a business perspective, have 3 high income producing activities. So my goal every day when I come into the office is if I can complete 3 high impact, very, very high impact activities and 3 very high income producing activities, that guarantees that my business will achieve the goals that we have for the business. And then at the end of the day, I spend 3-4 minutes just reviewing the day. You know, did I do what I said I was going to do? Did I follow my routine? What went sideways? What do I need to catch up on tomorrow? What am I grateful for the day? And I just rate my day on a scale of 1 to 10. Was it a 10? Was it an 8? Was it a 6? And the thing that's really important is I don't attach any emotion to it. And what I mean by that is I observe it, and it just is. And I ask myself, is that the result that I want? Yes or no? And if it's no, I'll ask myself, is what do I want to be different tomorrow? And as long as I'm able to stay focused day by day on the goals and the dreams that I have taken the time to think about by asking myself, what do I want to trade my life for? And then I just make small, minor adjustments every single day.
Wow,
that's the routine.
That was very helpful. Someone asked here, so it sounds like it's very planned. How about being spontaneous?
Very spontaneous. There's lots of times things come up and I go, yep, I want to do that instead. So there's lots of spontaneity in my life. But there's a time for spontaneity and there's a time for not. So for example, last week I was skiing for a week with my brother and 4 friends, and I had no plans, 0. Just wake up when I wake up, go skiing whatever time I want to go skiing, work out if I want to. When I'm at work, I'm very, very deliberate and focused. Just like, you know, when we have a task or a mission to accomplish, we stay laser focused on the mission, and there's a time to work and get the mission done, and there's a time to play. What I like to do is have fun while I'm on my mission, and what I like to do is when I'm playing, I just don't work. And so to me there needs to be some line of demarcation, and I think, you know, for all my Israeli brothers and sisters, we know about having missions, and we have to keep our eyes focused on the goal, and we know how to live life and enjoy. And this goes for everybody, not just, you know, the Israelis. I just have a sense that, you know, when there's a task to be completed, we get the task completed, and when we're on vacation, we're on vacation. And so for me, it's a matter of having that balance of getting what I want to get done, and then taking time off to replenish and have fun, and that's just the way I live my life. It's not maybe right for everybody, but it works okay for me.
And one probably last question in terms of time. I know that you have something very unique coming up on Saturday, which you call a Brainathon. So maybe, you know, I've seen this project, so maybe you can share with us what is this Brainathon about?
What's the Brainathon about? Well, about 3 years ago, I got together several of the top brain researchers, psychologists, psychiatrists in the world that I play with and do research with and collaborate with, and we did a full day of training on the internet, just like this, for about 6 hours, 7 hours. And we had 25,000 people sign up for it and watch us, and we just taught what are the latest research findings, but specifically for eliminating fears, eliminating trauma, setting goals, achieving goals, letting go of the past, really giving people the best techniques, tools, resources for transforming their lives based on the latest research, what we call as evidence-based information. And we had a phenomenal showing. Then I did it again 2 years ago, and we had about 50,000 people sign up for that and show up, all watching it online. And then we have another Brainathon coming up where myself, Dr. Srinivasan Pillai from Harvard, Mark Waldman from Pepperdine University, Dr. Ruth Basinski, some very well-known people here in the United States, get together and we teach, the latest brain research, the latest evidence-based methodologies. We bring clients of ours that we've had using our brain retraining software and our brain retraining techniques and tools on to show the success they've had from, 1 year to the next. And then we talk about some of the latest brain retraining technologies and methodologies that we've created. And it's a phenomenal opportunity for people to learn from, from some of the world's best people, but not just the scientific stuff, but how people are applying it is really what's fascinating and amazing in seeing the results. We've got people that have been divorced and end up with no money, start businesses, making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year in personal income. We've had individuals that have had brain injuries that basically lost, all awareness of their lives, regain their lives, and go on to be successful. We've had individuals that, every walk of life, male, female, married, divorced, single, in their 20s, in their 60s, that have retrained their brains to achieve more because they believe they can. They develop new habits, they learn the strategies and tactics, and we give them an opportunity to learn how to do that over a whole day. And some people show up for 1 hour, some people show up for the whole day, and that's what we do. So one of them is coming up right around the corner.
Wow. So that's, I think I saw some parts of the Berathon he did like 3 years ago, I think, and it was quite amazing. So I posted the link for everyone. We'll send it on email as well. And awesome. I want John to first say many thanks. It was very interesting and very helpful. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation for the benefit of everyone here. And I hope to see you in Israel soon.
Thank you very much. I hope it was worthwhile for everybody to invest the time with us today.
Okay. So thank you, John, and have a nice day.
Toda rabba and shalom.
Bye-bye.